I had a chance to work with Frankie Chan before Burning Ambition didn't happen because I went back to England, but Outlaw Brothers was his big film, probably bigger than Burning Ambition, because he used nearly every foreigner that was in Hong Kong at the time. And of course, meeting Yukari Oshima, it was just a brilliant on-screen martial artist. But probably the funniest scene, I think, was, well, there's a few. One was with the chickens, and he's saying, chickens, if you must have seen the film, you gotta go see it. Now, if this was in the States, this movie would have been banned, crushed, destroyed, burnt, and thrown away. Just because of the animal cruelty. Frankie Chan decided, we've got to have this scene in this warehouse. What did he dream of? I have no idea. I don't know. He dreamt up, oh, I'm gonna buy 300 chickens, and instead of cooking them so we could eat them, we're gonna put them in these boxes above us, and they will be dropped on the foreign terrorists. And they will see these flying chickens coming out of the sky. The chickens were so scared, because they were in this box, that they didn't come out flapping their wings at us, coming from all directions, something like the birds, Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds. They came out like they had dropped a bowling ball. They just dropped from the sky, boom. So you see 300 birds go, boop. And there's no effect, there's no, flapping of the wings flying around this thing. So they thought, oh, we got to do this again. Everybody, anybody who's on camera, grab the chickens by the legs, up in the rafters, and throw them at the cast. So thank God I was in the shop, because I did not want to grab these chickens, a whole, like 3 or 4 chickens in each hand, go up on the rafters and chuck them at whoever's down there. Because then you've got these bloody chickens that you're grabbing, throwing them at everybody, and we had to do this 5 or 6 times. And of course, chickens are dying as they are pelleted through the sky, There's a shot where Bruce Fontaine is supposed to be walking up this ladder to get on the rafter. And his reaction, Frankie's screaming at me, your reaction's no good, your reaction's no good, we're gonna do the chicken thing again. We want your reaction to be bigger. So of course, typical, they don't tell you when they're gonna do it, okay, to get the best reaction. And we thought, oh, just rehearsal. And they tell this rehearsal, and of course it's the real shot. And of course, Bruce's reaction was perfect. He reacted so big that they not only push the ladder off, he falls off this thing, and his reaction is great. Of course, he comes screaming and swearing and cussing, which is not the thing to do, Just be quiet and deal with what you have to do. My death scene, of course, another classic. I have a wire tied to my ankle, and I'm supposed to be throwing this sidekick at Yukari Oshima, and she's supposed to pull my ankle, and I fly off these rafters. And we're talking maybe 2 stories up. So they have to set up the mattresses and the boxes, because I'm going to be coming out in this flying sidekick fashion and drop, boom, to my death. So the wire they put on my ankle is yay thin. So every time it pulls me halfway off, and the cable snaps. Meanwhile, they have 6 guys down there pulling a rope. These are the guys who are pulling me off. Not enough guys, we need it stronger. How about 1.5 more guys, right? Let's try that. Bigger cable, so it really pulls him off. So I'm looking down and saying, how do we know how far I'm gonna go out? Maybe they need 1 3/4 guys to pull me enough. And as the boxes are down, what happens if I am pulled over the boxes? Then I will land on concrete, 2 stories up. So Bruce comes over to me and says, you know, if they really pull you, which they're going to pull you this time because it's not working, you're going to go further than the boxes, and you will die. I'm thinking, Bruce, thank you. You are very right. I go to Frankie Chan. I said, Frankie, you know, you got to make the boxes, you bring them out more, because when they pull me, I'm going to really go out. Okay? He says, yeah, I think that's a good idea. I'm like, man, who do they care about here? So, yes, they pull the boxes out and the mattresses, and what do you know? I go out. And if they hadn't have made that extra section, who knows what I would have looked like, right? And the scene is great. I'm thinking, wow, this is a good scene. And the amount of days it took, and the amount of agony it took, and I watched the movie and I look at it, I'm like, that's it. Cut. All you see is me coming out and me going through the air. You don't see me landing, you don't see anything, and just cut to the next scene. On my father's side of the family, we have a famous style of Kung Fu, Chinese Kung Fu. Through doing research, through Columbia University and Yale University, we dated back the style of Kung Fu to actually the mid-1300s, actually 1368, it goes back. I am now the 22nd generation, so we've actually been able to ascertain through research, you know, going all the way back to that period. I started competing in martial arts tournaments in 1982, and these were kind of just becoming into their own in this country through the PKA, Professional Karate Association, and WKA, which is World Karate Association. And at that time, probably the 2 biggest kickboxing exponents were Don the Dragon Wilson and Bill Superfoot Wallace, both of whom I decided wherever I could to study with them, to take as many seminars or wherever they were to go and I got to train with them. So that's what I did. Beginning in 1988, I thought to myself, gee, you know, don't want to compete anymore. It's just getting too much wear and tear on the body. And a friend of mine who worked for Noble House, was a broker on Wall Street, wanted to go and visit Hong Kong, because I obviously where Noble House is, and would I be kind of like a guide? And I said, sure. She said, figure nobody knows Hong Kong, you know, better than me. I've been there a few times. I said, sure, I'll go for, it was about 7 to 10 days. And I thought, you know, I'm going there, let's make some sense of this trip. And a photographer, friend in New York, I said, would you just take some new photos of me? And I said, do you have any contacts? Because he kept telling me, you know, you should go to Hong Kong now. You know, it's getting back. Things are getting bigger again. There's a lot of films coming out of Hong Kong, you know, you should go. I said, but who am I going to speak to? I said, you know how it is. He says, well, look, got a friend who's an art director, and give him a call. You never know. What the hell, you go in there anyway. So I said, okay, but, you know, why not? Get to Hong Kong, give him a call. We met at the Sheraton. When I'm showing this portfolio, he says, wow, this is really impressive, you know. I'm going to give you 4 numbers. I don't know if they're doing projects. I don't know what's going on. I'll give you these 4 numbers. And it was 4 different film companies. One was D&B. One was Cinema City. One was Bojon or Bo War, which is Sammo Hung's company, and Golden Harvest. So I made the rounds and got to speak to every company, and nobody was doing anything except Golden Harvest said, if you remain here, there's things coming up that you could probably try out for. I said, I can't stay here indefinitely. And I spoke with D&B. He said, well, we're actually in the midst of a project at the moment that's just in pre-production, and we're going to be starting it very soon. But the thing is that we've cast it already. And of course, this film became this huge blockbuster, and Yuen Woo-ping's comeback film. And of course, everybody knows Yuen Woo-ping is now famous for Crouching Tiger, along with Matrix, and along with his family doing Charlie's Angels and so forth. So I didn't know who Yuen Woo-ping was. The only person I knew on Tiger Cage was, of course, Donnie Yen. And I didn't know Donnie that well either. And they said, you know, maybe there's a chance you can, but you're going to have to meet Yuen Woo-ping, you're going to have to meet the director, and you have to meet the producer, which was Fish Fong, or Fong Lei Quan, his name is. And so that's how it all began, or kind of all began. So I try out, and we're in about a 6x6 room with a huge desk, and Yun's on the other side, Fish standing in the corner. I said, okay, show me something. I'm like, you didn't tell me I was supposed to do anything, and I'm standing there basically the way I'm dressed now. Jeans, jacket. Oh, do something. I got about 3 feet of space. So I'm saying, okay, I start doing moves back and forth. And they're, you know, talking back and forth. I go outside, and Fish comes out and says, they like, you know, the way you look, but I still didn't have the part. It was just all pie in the sky, you know, ideas. And I said to Fish, I said, you know, I can't stay in Hong Kong, I have to go back. He said, well, can you stay one more day? I said, no, I can't stay one more day. I have to go back to the States. I'm saying, one more day for what? I said, I've been here, I've overstayed my stay, I'm going back. So I go back, and he's basically begging me all the way to the airport. Can you stay? Can you stay? No, I have to go back. Please, please. I get back to the States. Within 24 hours, Fish calls me from Hong Kong. Hi, Vincent, how are you? I'm saying, fine, how's everything? Great. You're calling me very quickly here. We've decided you've got the part. I said, what? I said, we need you to come back. I'm like, okay, when? In 24 hours. I'm like, what? I said, I just got back. I said, well, are you paying for the flight? I mean, I had no idea, you know. Yes, of course, of course. Just get on a plane, get your suitcase, I'll meet you at the airport. I'm like, oh, goodness gracious. So I get back on the plane, no sleep. He's at the airport, and so that was it. That was the beginning of everything that was to happen later. At the time, the golden age, as they pinned it, it was kind of interesting because it went out like supersonic throughout the rest of the world. Everyone was coming over. I thought, this is easy pickings. And it wasn't at all, because you had to eat bitter, as they called it, you know, and a few other choice words. I mean, you had to. I was half Chinese, and as soon as I was able to tell them, you know, about family being here, I did get a little more face, but still not that much. You really had to really work hard and take a lot of crap before they had any respect for you. And that's the way it was. And anybody who thought they were just coming over and this is going to be the deal, it definitely wasn't. Because you got to turn it around. Everyone asked me back here, how come you always play the villain? You don't look like a villain. You look like a good guy. I said, well, you got to think, turn it around. Who plays the villain in American movies? Always the minority. Always African American. Always the Asian, right? Always the South American. I said, now we're in Hong Kong films, of course. Now it's their turn to chew on the white person or the black person or whatever person they're going to use other than Asian. And so that's why one played the villain so much, and why one had to kind of dig down and get chewed upon in a way, and it was tough, and a lot of people could not take that. For me personally, I had a kind of a second wave where I really started my kind of whole, I guess, career in Hong Kong changed, and the films that I did changed because they became, I guess, more, there was more substance to them. And also at that time, as I started doing more work, I got picked up by an agent in Hong Kong, and that was basically unheard of for a foreigner to get picked up by a manager or agent, especially a Hong Kong agent. So it became a lot more serious for me. Once I got signed to this agent wanted to do a 360-degree turn on my image. Now, told me what to dress. We set up all these interviews with different magazines, TVB, so forth, and a kind of whole new look and how I would have to act. You can't go out wearing that type of stuff, blah, blah, blah. From that point, I started working on movies like back to back. And when I say back to back, I don't mean start one movie, finish that movie, start the next. No. Go from one set to the other set. Sleep for 3 hours, go to the next set. Sleep for 3 hours, go to the next set. And there was like 3 or 4 films where I was doing that. There's a film called Point of No Return. There was Fury in Red that was directed by Wong Lung-wai with Robin Shaw in it. There was a film called Robotrix, which became a big cult classic with Amy Yip. And of course, Operation Condor, which was the most prominent of all the films and had to spend the most time on. And of course, every director from the other film had to kind of bow to Jackie Chan and say, okay, we'll let him go so we can go to your set, which is what happened. So there was like 3 or 4 films I was working on at one point, back to back. To this day, I don't know how I actually was able to physically do it. But this was a normal thing of Hong Kong filmmaking. Operation Condor was the last film that I did. The last film that I actually worked on. At that point, I felt, having worked with Jackie and having, of all the films, this was the most lengthiest. And though I was still, at least in the beginning part, I was able to work on other things, I was able to model. But as we really got into it, being there every day, and it became very tiring. I just didn't have the energy to do anything else, so I really focused on doing this. And one needed to, because of the size of the film. At that time, it was the most expensive Hong Kong film ever made. And, even now with his book written, it's mentioned in there as one of the top 10 fight scenes that he's ever done. But I felt, for me personally, that I had done everything Hong Kong could offer me. I signed with Elite in Asia, had modeled every designer possible, nearly, and TV commercials, the amount of films that I did. I had a lot more films than most of the actors there. And even was able to work with Polygram Records, writing what they call canto pop or Cantonese pop songs for some of the artists that were in Hong Kong. So I was even able to do that. So I felt that, yeah, I can stay and I can continue working, but I felt that I've put my 5 years. It's time to, let's go whatever to the next level is, whatever that might be. So I decided to leave, and that was my decision. Some actors, Western actors, decided to stay on, but it really, as we know now, was the end of that golden age of Hong Kong cinema.